Obi-Wan Kenobi got a lot of praise for how it tackled the time period between episodes 3 and 4. However, the show wasn't always meant to play out like this in the original script. In fact, it had some pretty massive changes made to it, including the removal of Reva's death. So how did she die in the OG script, and what else is different? Well, let's dive straight into it and find out. First up, Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't even supposed to be a series. Kenobi was a pretty solid show for what it promised. Like, we got a satisfying arc for the Jedi Knight as he came to terms with the events on Mustafar and reforged his connection with the Force. Oh, and of course, what could be better than seeing Ewan McGregor sport those Jedi robes and have an incredible lightsaber duel with Hayden Christensen in his menacing Vader outfit. But if there was one criticism that we could have thrown towards the Disney Plus series, it's the fact that it wasn't exactly paced very well. Now, we know that it's not entirely the show's fault because, like all other Disney series, this had to have 6 episodes with 3 acts. So it's an inherent problem that can't be fixed without changing the format. With that said, the initial plans for Ewan McGregor's return weren't based on a show at all. Instead, it was supposed to be a full trilogy of movies that revolved around Obi-Wan's journey towards becoming a hermit, and also somehow aging at the speed of light. And while that vision's obviously not gonna happen now, we've got some spicy new details about how that story panned out, straight from the original writer himself. Next up, what was Reva's fate in the original script? Now, if you've watched Obi-Wan Kenobi, you'd know that the show didn't really end Reva's arc, and left her story open to being expanded upon. Obviously, this would point toward a potential season 2, or perhaps her appearance in other Star Wars shows since she's kinda redeemed herself from the clutches of her edgy Inquisitor mentality. In the original script though, she was actually supposed to die, and according to the project's writer Stuart Beattie, it was gonna mark the end of her arc as a character. In an interview with The Direct, Beattie said that he was the one who created Reva's character, and had plans to see her story to the end. However, changes to the script meant that she ended up getting absolutely owned by Beru and Owen, and then the usual Star Wars trope of joining the good guys team after literally murdering dozens of people in cold blood. But hey, if you had qualms about how she even knew that Vader was Anakin in the first place, then you may have liked the OG script better, because in that version of the story, she actually didn't know that. But wait, who else would Reva be mad at instead of Vader then? Of course, this opens up the conundrum of her entire arc, which was to get revenge for Anakin obliterating her youngling friends. So if she didn't even know that her boss doesn't like sand, then what was her motivation for joining the Inquisitors? Well, according to Beattie, her anger was still aimed at Sky Guy, but even more than that, it was aimed towards the Jedi Council, who she thought were the biggest villains in the galaxy. She believed the Republic's lies that they were plotting a coup to overtake and get power and all that, but were eventually stopped by the clones. So yeah, Reva would have just been hunting the Jedi in general rather than fixating on Vader and Obi-Wan. And honestly, this version makes a ton of sense, because it's wild that she had the patience to first go through the brutal Inquisitor training regime and then get close to Vader. Like, wasn't being impatient and reckless her whole thing? Why did she wait for Obi-Wan to show up before backstabbing her boss then? Yeah, honestly, we don't know either. But then again, her arc wouldn't have been as strong then, as she'd just be a normal Inquisitor without that extra bit of rage. Up next, let's discuss how Reva dies in the original script. Star Wars has this weird tradition of bringing characters back from the dead. It's happened in pretty much every movie trilogy, and we saw it not once but twice within a span of 6 Kenobi episodes. So of course, when Vader stabbed Reva in episode 5, we all thought she was dead for a second. Well, until she crawled up to the comms device and realized that Luke was on Tatooine. In the OG script, however, the plan was to kill her during that encounter with Sky Guy. How she got there with all the changes, however, might surprise you. As it turns out, while she's got Obi-Wan tied down and ready to be sent to the Shadow Realm, he lets her in on a little secret by telling her that, yep, your scary mechanical boss is actually Anakin Skywalker. So she ends up having this moment of realization that her entire life has been a lie, and decides to sacrifice herself to save that wily old fox Kenobi. Then she goes up to Vader and basically says, "Whoops, I killed your old master." And of course, he strikes her down in rage, which we guess is a good ending for her arc. Seriously, even though the show left her story open at the end, at least it wasn't as anticlimactic as the original script. Now, Reva had a lot more backstory in the OG script too. While Obi-Wan Kenobi did a decent job of of bringing Reva's story to its conclusion, it kinda left us wanting more too. For instance, we never really got to see how Reva was inducted into the Inquisitor ranks, and the only glimpse we got of her past was from Order 66. So to close down that gap, the original script apparently also dove deeper into her past and development as a character. Plus, since Vader couldn't really kill Obi-Wan in the series, she had to be the one to fall by his saber. And according to Beatty, it made perfect sense to bring a character that'd act as the bridge between Kenobi and Anakin. Like, she was meant to be the one to end the Sith Lord's obsession with our protagonist. But of course, at the same time, there's only so much redemption that you can have in Star Wars, which is why she had to die at the end of that. We mean, imagine getting brutally murdered by an Inquisitor and then seeing her turn into a goody two-shoes and be friends with everyone. Kinda harsh, no? Oh, and if we were to go down that slippery slope, then let's just bring Kylo Ren back from the dead too, because he totally wasn't a space Nazi who had killed thousands for no reason. Like, the bad guy has to redeem himself and then die at the end for it to be truly Star Wars. But at some level, Reva kinda breaks that rule and continues to live on in the current canon. And finally, the Vader vs. Kenobi duel was also meant to be different. Alright, so according to Beatty, the original script was written in 2017, and at that point he obviously hadn't played Jedi Fallen Order, a game that has a ton of Inquisitor stuff. So when he finally got to see that story, he was kinda surprised by how the second sister was so similar to Reva. But of course, Reva was her own original character with a different set of motivations. With that said though, another big change that he described in the original script was the final lightsaber duel between Vader and Kenobi. Now, if you've seen the season finale, you know that Obi-Wan kinda goes into God mode and owns Darth Vader in a 1 vs. 1 combat. Oh, and obviously, we really can't go on without going nuts over that scene with Anakin's face being visible through the broken mask. Seriously, what an incredible performance from both Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. Plus, it was a neat little Easter egg for Rebels fans too. In the OG script, however, we weren't meant to get that scene at all. And as a matter of fact, Obi-Wan wasn't supposed to suddenly become ultra powerful and hurl a billion rocks at his ex-student either. Instead, Vader was supposed to get the upper hand in that fight, and finally beat his old master. Now, obviously, this sounds dope and also pretty accurate for what the power levels would have been between the two at this point. However, it would have also messed up the entirety of A New Hope because, well, Vader was never supposed to actually defeat Kenobi until their meeting on the Death Star. But then again, Obi-Wan walking away from a dying Sith Lord wasn't the smartest thing either. Like, honestly, he already knew that his friend Anakin was basically gone at that point, so killing Vader would have been a wise choice there. After all, he does kinda go on to literally kill millions after being spared by Kenobi. With that said, perhaps this is why the series didn't hit that well for some people, because at the end of the day, it couldn't really do any unpredictable stuff, as it had to adhere to the Star Wars canon. That's a wrap for this video. Do you want to see more of Reva in an upcoming Star Wars series? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.